Hello, so V4 of Filmstro has finally landed and I'm going to use it right now to very quickly create a custom soundtrack for a video edit. So let's get into it. So here I am in the browse page. I've already got a track selected that I'm going to be using. I can play it dynamically here by just using these sliders and then kind of get an idea of whether this is going to be the track for me for my edit. Yeah. That's very cool. So I'm going to just hit customize and then open it in the web app, which is the version 4. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add an edit because we need a video for this. Okay, now Filmstro immediately asks us if we want to automatically change the music length to suit the edit. I'm actually going to ignore this for now. If I did hit OK, it would just make the music automatically exactly the right length for the edit. But there's a couple of caveats with that, and I just want to do it myself, so I'll get into that later on in the video. So the first thing I want to do now that I've got a video in here is obviously I want to switch the video volume on, maybe turn the music down a little bit, because I just want to get a real idea of how this sounds. But for the purposes of this video, I'm probably going to leave the music reasonably high, at times, just for you guys to really hear what I'm doing with the music. And I'm also going to, just to simplify things, to quickly just set a template. So maybe I'll just use the bed, because that basically just sets everything, at a quiet place. I know though that I already want to have the depth up probably. Let's just have a quick listen. Let's mute the video and just listen to the music in this position. So that's nice, but I'm wanting to probably have it a bit lower. So one of the things I could do, I could now just rehearse, sorry. And if I press play now, I can just move these and yeah, that's nice. There's a nice bit of low, ominous stuff in there that I want. So you see that I move the slider, when it's in rehearse mode, it makes no change on the timeline. In fact, most of the stuff's grayed out. But if we go back to record, then actually I can make these changes. Now, what I'll do is, with the playhead right at the start, I can actually just move this, and it just sets the entire thing for me, provided it's in this overwrite mode. But that's, a really useful feature. So I can just very quickly set the entire thing. So now I've got it where I want it to start. I think I'm just going to do this live now. I'm just going to play this for a bit, bleed in some other stuff to see what happens. Perhaps we should put this sound back on, turn this down. Okay, let's just go from here now and see what happens. Okay, so there where she stands up, I think I'm going to do something, bring a bit of power in. So my choices are overwrite, which is by default when you first open a session, which is, I'm just going to use that and you'll see what happens. Basically, it'll change where I am at the playhead, but also for the remainder of the entire session. Let's check this out. Cool. So say I was happy with where that arrived, in terms of the level and the frame by which time the power went up, but say I wanted to maybe bring it in sooner or anything like that, what you then would do is you'd switch it to spot edit, because now, watch what happens if I now edit. It's actually only going to change where I am, right? Do you see this? So obviously I'll undo that. But that means I can just make some smaller changes, but it won't affect what's happening later on. So I could just, for example, let's just bring this in a tiny bit sooner and quicker perhaps. And then as soon as I let go, it just snaps to the pre-existing material. Okay, so I've brought in a little bit of power. Let's tab through to momentum using 1, 2, and 3 on the keyboard. Just tab through to that. And maybe we'll bring in some momentum now. As soon as this, and this next bit, yeah, here now maybe. Now there, the spot mode isn't very helpful for me because I don't want to have to keep holding the mouse or, drawing in this information or having to make a selection and change the level. So this overwrite mode is going to be much better. So I'll just do that again, but this time with overwrite. So I'll just bring this in. Brilliant, that's cool. And then here, this was maybe a bit wiggly, so what we could do is we could actually just refine this. So if I go Shift and then click and drag to create a selection, I can now I've got a right click menu now where we can add a transition, for example. So we could do, you know, a nice kind of concave one like that, which will bring it in even slower. But I think in this case, probably we actually want convex. So let's have a listen to that. Actually, if I keep the selection, it'll just play immediately from the beginning of the selection. I'm actually happy for that to be more subtle, so let's have a listen again. Yeah, that's cool. I'm just going to bring the power in now, and I want to be really precise with that. So I think I'm going to find the frame that I want. Let's say there, bang. What about this one? Yeah, there. I'm just now going to add a keyframe. So we're just going to use this button here to add a keyframe on the power at that point. And because I've added a keyframe, it's actually connected to the slider right now, so I could just bring that up. But what I probably want to do is just do a second one. So I'm just going to use the arrow key to move a few frames to the right. Now I'm going to go Command apostrophe to add another keyframe, which is now connected to the slider, and then I can bring this up. Obviously the one at the very end hasn't moved up, so we can just grab that and do that as well. Cool. And now, well, let's have a look. Nice. So you can't really hear what's going on because the sound effects are quite loud, but the music's definitely changed there. And then actually what I'm going to do now is for depth, I'm going to bring the depth down, maybe on the same frame. So let's have a look where that was. Okay, so there, if I tab 2, number 2, and then I'm going to make a selection this time. Let's have a look, let's do quite a long one. And then I'm just going to take this down here. And then another thing we've got is a right click menu just to be sure that it's exactly in the middle, for example, because it might be a difference, you know, for Filmstro, because you've got distinct musical settings left, middle and right, or sometimes only left and right, but in this one there's one in the middle as well. You might want to just right click, change levels, and then say middle, and you can see that that did change a little bit. So eyeballing it is fine, and it is going to be fine most of the time, but you know, when you want to be absolutely precise, just use that levels command as well. So let's just have a listen to this. Yeah, cool. So that basically brought in some higher instruments as well, which actually triggered a horn, and really, really briefly only. So we'll probably look at that in the other thing we'll discuss today, which is the stem controls and stuff. But before we get there, let's just maybe refine this as well a little bit using another feature, which is the pen tool. So this one, we'll just use Alt. I'm using Alt to just be able to draw, because it might be nice to just bring this in more gradually. So I'll just refine that a little bit myself. Again, if I wanted to just make this really smooth, I might just go like this, transition, and maybe just have linear. So that just cleans that up a little bit. So let's have a listen to this. Oh, interesting. Yeah, that horn again is actually, there must be like tail end of a horn part that kind of kicks in there. So I think what we'll do is we're going to just go and delete that. So let's go and find it first. So we're going to go over here into the stem control, and then we've got these folders here. Now the horn's going to be in brass, right? If you didn't know, okay, sure, there's no shortcut. You're going to have a listen, but some of these are self-explanatory, hopefully, to a certain extent. These are going to get better over time in terms of the labeling. But let's have a little listen then from. So is it this one here? Let's have a listen. Yes, that part. So that part, I'm actually just going to, I've soloed it to find it, and now I'm just going to uncheck that, which means that it's just not going to play. And it won't be contained in the render either. And that auto-saves, by the way, now as well. So the next time you open this session, that will persist. Because I know a few of you have mentioned that that's sometimes a bit annoying. All right, so let's have a listen to this transition again then here. Yeah, that's great. I'll turn this music down a bit now, and then I'm going to bring the momentum in. There we go. Okay, great. Now at this point, it's probably time to save, because otherwise we'll lose this. Let's give it a name. All right. Now, This is really, really key now. What's happening in this edit is obviously that's the end of the scene essentially, and the fighters are now going to break apart, and I really want to underline that by having the music finish sympathetically for that as well. So if I just zoom out, I'm using Command and then just my, the scrolling on the mouse. So what I'm going to do to change the length is I'll just have to drag the actual music object and make it shorter. And that's it. There are actually 2 modes for this. So at the moment, by default, it's best match, which is a bit more musical than the closest match. You can access all the settings in here. So at the moment, my lengths here is set to best rather than closest. So that's something for you guys to have a look at as well. And let's have a look what we've got at the moment. Let's see where it ends. If I just go into this bit of the edit. Yeah, so the music there was suspiciously quiet already. That means I think the music's basically ended and we're listening to the audio tail there. So let's make it, what have we got there anyway, 42. Let's make it a bit longer, I reckon. Let's go about there. Let's try this. Okay. Yeah, perfect. So okay, so I'm just going to highlight that for you guys without the sound this time. So here, awesome. And you can see that the very end of the music is this sort of still ambient bed. It's continuing, it's got audio tail, and strictly speaking, it's got sound all the way until the end of this green music object. So you will find, and that will vary from track to track. So sometimes, you guys might be tempted to kind of go, oh, I'll make the music exactly the same length as the video. You probably, in most instances, want to make the music a bit longer than the video, actually, just because of the audio tail and the way that kind of works out in terms of the sound. You can always trim these things and add your own fade outs in your NLE, etc. Anyway, so okay, so we've added the length change there. I think the only thing I will change now is this depth again. Instead of muting the instrument, I think I can achieve the same thing and remove that horn by simply having this here. Basically, let's just grab a keyframe, which is this one here. So it's 2. Move that up. In fact, we can simplify this. We'll just shift select, delete all these. There we go, done. So, you can move the keyframes or you just delete them or whatever. And now I think I'm pretty much ready with my soundtrack. So I think we'll just have one listen through with the music at the sympathetic volume, the sound on in the video. Let's just see what happens. Super happy with that. Really, really happy with that actually. So yeah, that's really, really nice. I think the only thing we need to do now is we could clean this up as well. There's a few too many keyframes here. Maybe we could just add another big transition there. It would just help with in terms of your RAM and the computational load. The more keyframes you have, the more work the program's doing. But basically this is fine. So let's save the last changes, and then we're going to get this rendered out and check that it sounds all right. And if it doesn't, there's again another setting just to show you guys how you can always get that to be just perfect. All right, let's export. So yep, ready to export the soundtrack. Let's go now. And then okay, so that's all exported. Let's have a quick listen to that track then. Yeah, all absolutely fine. If for any reason that weren't quite right, you would just again go to the settings, and then you see here there's the export setting, which is actually the first one that opens by default, and you can just change the sample rate there. All you do is just toggle it to the other one. It actually doesn't matter which one it is, it's just your system audio might sometimes have a conflict. Like for example, I'm using Logic Pro quite a lot, or I'm in DaVinci Resolve or Adobe Premiere or something like that, and it depends how all the different various audio settings are set up. It just might conflict from time to time. So you just flick this to the other one and then re-export and you're done. There's one more thing to say though, which is for those of you who've got hardware controllers already that you use in your filmmaking setup or post-production setup or whatever, as long as they're MIDI enabled, you can use those as well to control Filmstro. So even things like, your kind of color wheel thing, any kind of controller pads you have, infinite controller knobs and stuff. I've got sliders. So yeah, let me just set those up as well. So some of your hardware controllers will have software inside of it, like this one here. Is obviously launching a small like companion app thing, but I've never actually set it up or done much in here because you don't need to. So I'll just hide this and then just show you how you would go ahead and set up the MIDI. So to do that then, what we would do is we'd go into settings, we go to the MIDI settings, and then if you've got a controller connected, in my case I've got it just via USB, you'd search for that particular controller and then it will come up. Now some of these might be set differently, or you might be able to go into your software and do things about this, but Filmstro allows you to just do this very conveniently. So what I would do here is I would just hit MIDI learn, and then I'll move the slider responsible for momentum in this case, right? So I'm just going to move that physically, and you can see that's actually made the connection right there. Hit MIDI learn again, that's now connected. Same for depth, you see that's changed to 22. Power is now 23. There's two more controls I'm going to set up as well, which is the start, stop, play, pause, which you have to set up to toggle. That's important. And the stop / go back to start of play timeline, which you want to set up to momentary. So that's the only other thing you've got to do in there. I wonder if I can MIDI learn these as well. Yeah, perfect. And then this one, yeah, done. So I believe, so that's, yeah, can you see the playhead moving there? That's play, pause, and then this one, as I say, is to go back to there. Now controller behavior, don't leave it on off, definitely choose one of these. Now pickup is created for any controller where you've got a finite position of 0 to 100, or nothing to something. So this slider here, as you can see, has obviously got a finite position. However, there's some controller knobs which are infinite, right? You just turn, nothing happens. Now for them, you want to use this value scaling. And I don't want to go into the details, but you'll just find it works basically. And pickup is the one you want to use for, like I say, some sliders or finite controllers, whereas the value scaling is for if it's an infinite controller knob or something similar. All right, I think that is the entire walkthrough. And I've created a piece of music just the way I would, if I were writing it bespoke, or at least making the same kinds of decisions, thinking about film and the picture in the same way. So yeah, hope you enjoy this new version of Filmstro with the keyframes. Do let us know your thoughts, suggestions, feature requests, and anything else. And yeah, look forward to hearing from you. In the meantime, happy editing.